When trauma survivor Emma Chen's elevator crashes with mysterious billionaire Gabriel Stone, single touch awakens feelings she thought were dead forever. But their electric connection hides deadly secrets that could destroy them both. Welcome back, beautiful people. Today's story is equal parts drama and devotion, and trust us, you'll be hooked from the very first line. Asterisk, the elevator cable snapped at exactly 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday that would reshape to lives forever. Emma Chen pressed herself against the mirrored wall as the elevator car plummeted 3 floors before the emergency brakes. Screamed into action. Her portfolio scattered across the floor, architectural drawings mixing with shattered glass from her water bottle. The lights flickered once, twice, then died completely. In the suffocating darkness, she heard breathing that wasn't her own. "Are you hurt?" The voice was deep, controlled, but Emma caught the tremor underneath. "I think so." Her hands shook as she felt along her arm where something warm and wet soaked through her silk blouse. "There's blood." A phone flashlight blazed to life, and Emma found herself staring into the most unsettling gray eyes she'd ever seen. The man was tall, expensive suit torn at the shoulder, dark hair disheveled, but it was his face that made her breath catch. Beautiful in a way that seemed almost cruel, with sharp cheekbones and a mouth that looked like it rarely smiled. "Let me see." He moved toward her, and she instinctively backed away. "Don't." The word came out sharper than she intended. He stopped immediately, raising his hands. "I'm not going to hurt you. You're bleeding, and we might be stuck here for a while." Emma's rational mind knew he was right, but her body remembered other hands, other voices that had promised safety before delivering pain. She'd spent 5 years building walls around herself, and this stranger's proximity threatened to crack them. "My name is Gabriel Stone," he said, settling back against the opposite wall. "I own this building." Emma's heart lurched. She'd been coming to see Gabriel Stone, the reclusive tech billionaire whose company was hiring her design firm. She'd researched him obsessively, finding only carefully crafted public images and business profiles. Nothing had prepared her for this raw, immediate presence. "Emma Chen," she whispered. "I had an appointment with you." Something shifted in his expression. The interior designer. "I've seen your work." The way he said it made her skin prickle. There was knowledge in his voice, recognition that went deeper than professional familiarity. "We need to stop that bleeding," Gabriel said, pulling off his suit jacket. "May I?" Emma hesitated. The cut on her arm throbbed, and she could feel warmth spreading down to her wrist. Slowly, she nodded. Gabriel moved with surprising gentleness, tearing a strip from his expensive shirt to create a makeshift bandage. When his fingers brushed her skin, Emma felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Not fear, not the usual revulsion, but a jolt of electricity that shot straight to her core. She jerked away so violently that she hit the wall behind her. "I'm sorry," Gabriel said immediately, his hands dropping. "I should have warned you. It's not... ... double quotes. Emma struggled for words. How could she explain that his touch had awakened something she'd thought was dead? That for one terrifying moment, she'd wanted to lean into his warmth instead of running from it? The emergency speaker crackled to life. "Mr. Stone, fire department is here. We'll have you out in 20 minutes. "Copy that," Gabriel replied. But his eyes never left Emma's face. 20 minutes alone with the man whose touch had just shattered 5 years of careful emotional armor. Emma slumped against the wall, suddenly exhausted. "Why did you really choose my firm?" she asked. Gabriel was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "Because I saw you at the Morrison Gallery opening 6 months ago. You were standing in front of that installation you designed, explaining to someone how spaces could heal trauma. You said that rooms remember pain, but they can also remember joy if we're brave enough to let them." Emma's breath caught. She remembered that night, remembered feeling watched but never seeing who. "I have a building full of broken people." Emma, myself included. "I thought maybe you could help us remember how to feel something other than empty." The vulnerability in his admission hit her like a physical blow. This wasn't just about interior design. This was about 2 damaged people recognizing something in each other that they'd both thought was irretrievably lost. "I don't know if I can help anyone," Emma said honestly. "I'm barely holding myself together most days." Gabriel's smile was sad and knowing. Maybe that's exactly why you're the right person for the job. The rescue team's voices echoed down the elevator shaft. Growing closer? Soon they would be pulled back into their separate worlds, back to the safety of professional distance and carefully maintained boundaries. But something had shifted in those dark minutes between them. Something that made Emma's carefully constructed walls feel suddenly fragile. "If I take this job," she said, "I need you to know that I'm not what you think I am. I'm not the woman who can heal anything. I'm the woman who breaks everything she touches." Gabriel's gray eyes held hers steady, then were perfectly matched. "Because I'm the man who destroys everything he cares about." The elevator lurched as the rescue equipment engaged, and Emma realized that whatever happened next, there would be no going back to the person she'd been before Gabriel Stone's touch had reminded her that she was still capable of feeling everything. 3 weeks later, Emma stood in Gabriel's corner office at midnight, her hands trembling as she held the USB drive that would destroy him. The renovation was nearly complete. What had started as a professional relationship had evolved into something far more dangerous. Late-night conversations over Chinese takeout, stolen glances across conference tables, the electric tension that sparked every time Gabriel passed her a coffee cup or their shoulders brushed while reviewing blueprints. Emma had convinced herself she was imagining the connection until tonight, when she'd stayed late to install the final lighting fixtures and discovered Gabriel's laptop still open on his desk. She hadn't meant to look, but her name had been highlighted in an email thread, and curiosity had overridden caution. Project Phoenix, Phase 2 initiated. Emma Chen. Psychological profile attached. Recommend proceeding with seduction protocol. The words had hit her like ice water. Every coffee, every shared story, every moment she'd thought was real had been carefully orchestrated manipulation. Gabriel hadn't chosen her because he'd seen her at the gallery. He'd chosen her because she was broken, vulnerable, perfect for whatever sick game he was playing. The office door opened behind her, and she spun around to find Gabriel silhouetted against the hallway light. Even now, after discovering his betrayal, her treacherous body responded to his presence. "Working late again?" His voice was warm, concerned. The same voice that had told her she was beautiful 3 nights ago, when he'd almost kissed her in the empty conference room. I know what you're doing." Emma held up the USB drive she'd used to copy his files. Project Phoenix, the seduction protocol. All of it. Gabriel went completely still. In the dim lighting, his face became a mask, beautiful and terrible. "Emma, don't." She backed toward the windows, putting his massive desk between them. "Don't you dare say my name like that. Like it means something to you. This does mean something to me. Stop lying." Her voice cracked despite her efforts to stay strong. "I read the emails, Gabriel. I know this was all planned. It's the broken elevator. The way you've been pursuing me, making me think I was special." Gabriel moved slowly around the desk, his hands visible as if approaching a wounded animal. The elevator wasn't planned. That was real, but everything else was fake. No, the single word was fierce, desperate. "Emma, you have to let me." "Explain." "Explain what?" "How you targeted me because I'm damaged goods. How you've been playing mind games with someone who's barely functional on her best days." The hurt that flashed across Gabriel's face almost looked genuine. "Almost. You want the truth?" Gabriel's voice turned cold, businesslike. "Fine, you're right. I did research you. I did have people compile a psychological profile, but not for the reasons you think." "Then why?" Gabriel moved to the windows, staring out at the Seattle skyline. When he spoke, his voice was barely audible. "'Cause 3 years ago, my brother committed suicide in this building. He jumped from the roof after discovering that someone he trusted had been manipulating him for months, using his trauma against him." Gabriel's reflection in the glass looked haunted. "I've been hunting the person responsible ever since. Someone who specializes in targeting vulnerable people, gaining their trust, then destroying them from the inside." Emma's grip on the USB drive loosened. "What does that have to do with me?" "The person I'm looking for is someone with intimate knowledge of psychological manipulation, someone who understands trauma because they've experienced it, Someone who works in design or architecture, who has access to buildings and people's personal spaces. The implication hit Emma like a physical blow. You think I killed your brother? Gabriel turned to face her, and she saw raw pain in his gray eyes. I thought you might be connected. The timeline fit. Your background, your access to buildings across the city. I had to know for sure. So you seduced me to find out if I'm a murderer. I tried to, but then I got to know you. Really? Know you. And I realized I was wrong. You're not a predator, Emma. You're another victim. Emma felt like the ground was shifting beneath her feet. This is insane. You're insane maybe, but I'm also right about one thing. The person who killed my brother is still out there, still hurting people, and I think they might be targeting you next. Why would you think that? Gabriel pulled out his phone, showing her a photograph. It was Emma, taken from a distance as she left a coffee shop. She recognized the location as being near her apartment. This was taken last week. Found it in an envelope slipped under. My office door with a note. She's perfect for the next phase. Don't get attached. Emma's blood turned to ice. Someone had been watching her, photographing her without her knowledge. Someone who knew about Gabriel's investigation. You're lying. This is all part of your game. I wish it was. Gabriel moved closer, his voice urgent. Emma, I know you have no reason to trust me. I know I've destroyed any chance of that, but you're in danger. Real danger. And despite everything I've done wrong, I can't let anything happen. To you, the sincerity in his voice was devastating. Emma wanted to believe him. Wanted to think that some part of their connection had been real, but she'd learned the hard way that wanting something didn't make it true. Even if I believed you, which I don't, why should I care? You used me. You made me think someone actually saw something worthwhile in me. I do see something worthwhile. And you see a useful tool, someone broken enough to manipulate, but functional enough to be believable. Gabriel's composure finally cracked. Want to know what I see when I look at you? I see someone who survived hell and came out stronger. I see someone who takes broken spaces and makes them beautiful again. I see the only person who's made me feel human in 3 years. Stop. I see someone I'm falling in love with, even though I know I don't deserve to. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with possibility and pain. Emma felt tears threatening, hated herself for the way her heart leaped at his admission. Love? She laughed bitterly. You don't even know me, the real me. If you did, you'd understand why no one could love me. Try me. The challenge in his voice made something snap inside Emma. If he wanted the truth, she'd give it to him.
All of it?
I killed someone, she said quietly. 5 years ago. That's why I can't stand to be touched. That's why I live alone and keep everyone at a distance. That's why I'm so fucking broken that you thought I might be a predator. Gabriel's face went pale, but he didn't step back. Who, my stepfather? The man who spent 3 years raping me after my mother married him. I put antifreeze in his coffee one morning and watched him die on our kitchen floor. The confession hung between them like a live wire. Emma had never told anyone the complete truth, had carried the weight of it alone for 5 years, Emma. Now you know. I'm not a victim, Gabriel. I'm a killer. Just like you suspected. Before Gabriel could respond, the office lights flickered and went out completely. Emergency lighting kicked in a moment later, bathing everything in an eerie red glow. And in that crimson darkness, Emma heard the sound that would haunt her dreams. Slow, deliberate clapping coming from the doorway behind them. What a touching confession, said a voice that made Emma's blood freeze, though I'm afraid you're both going to have to die now. The figure in the doorway stepped into the emergency lighting's red glow, and Emma's world tilted sideways. Dr. Sarah Martinez smiled at them with the same warm expression she'd worn during 2 years of therapy sessions. The same face that had helped Emma process her trauma, rebuild her ability to trust, find the strength to start her design business. Hello, Emma. You look surprised to see me, Sarah. Emma's voice came out as a broken whisper. What are you doing here? Finishing? What I started, of course. Dr. Martinez moved into the office with casual confidence, closing the door behind her. She wore dark clothing and latex gloves, professional even now, though I must admit, I'm disappointed in you, Gabriel. Specifically warned you not to get attached. Gabriel stepped partially in front of Emma, his body tense. You're the one who's been killing people? Such a limited way to think about it. I prefer to consider myself a behavioral researcher. People like Emma and your brother are perfect subjects. So much pain, so much potential for interesting outcomes. Emma felt like she was drowning in ice water. You've been manipulating me this entire time? From the moment you walked into my office, sweetheart? A young woman who'd killed her abuser but felt guilty about it? Who blamed herself for enjoying his death? You were absolutely delicious to work with. You helped me heal. I helped you become functional enough to be useful. Do you really think? It was coincidence that you started getting high-profile clients right after our sessions ended, that your business took off so dramatically. Emma's legs threatened to give out. Every success, every moment of peace she'd found over the past 3 years had been orchestrated. The Morrison Gallery installation, Gabriel said, pieces clicking together. You arranged for Emma to be there that night? I needed you to see her. You've been so focused on your revenge quest, ignoring all my carefully planted clues. To give you a more personal motivation, Dr. Martinez's smile was sharp as broken glass. Though I underestimated how thoroughly you'd both mess up such a simple seduction scenario. Your brother? Emma asked Gabriel. David was one of her patients too. She spent months convincing him that the abuse he'd suffered was his fault, that he deserved to die for surviving it. Dr. Martinez clucked her tongue. David was weak. He broke too easily. But you, Emma, you've been much more resilient. Even now, discovering everything you believed about your recovery was a lie. You're still standing, still fighting. Oh, what do you want? I want to finish my research. You see, I've been studying the point at which trauma survivors break completely. David reached it quite quickly, but you've been more challenging. Even tonight's revelations haven't pushed you over the edge. Gabriel's hand found Emma's, squeezing gently. We're leaving. No, I'm afraid not. Dr. Martinez pulled a small device from her pocket. I've taken the liberty of locking down the building's security system. No one gets in or out until I'm finished. Finished with what? Well, I was going to kill Gabriel in front of you and see if watching your lover die would finally break you. But now that I know about your stepfather, I have a much better idea. Dr. Martinez pulled out a gun, keeping it trained on Gabriel while she spoke to Emma. You're going to kill him yourself, just like you killed your stepfather. And then you're going to understand that you're not a survivor? You're a predator? Just like me? No. Emma's voice was steady, despite the terror coursing through her. Oh, but you will, because if you don't, I'll make his death very slow and very painful. At least if you do it, it will be quick. Gabriel squeezed Emma's hand again. Listen. To her, shut up, Dr. Martinez snapped. This is between Emma and me. This is about understanding what she really is. I know what I am, Emma said quietly. I'm someone who protects the people I care about, by killing them, by whatever means necessary. In one fluid motion, Emma grabbed the heavy crystal paperweight from Gabriel's desk and hurled it at the light fixture above Dr. Martinez. The room plunged into complete darkness as sparks rained down. Run, Emma hissed to Gabriel. They moved toward the door, but Dr. Martinez's voice stopped them cold. I wouldn't if I were you. You see, there are pressure sensors under the carpet near the door. If you step on them, the gas I've pumped through the ventilation system will be released. Odorless, colorless, and fatal within minutes. Emma's blood chilled. They were trapped. Turn on the emergency lighting, Emma. Let's finish this properly. Emma found the emergency switch, and the red glow returned. Dr. Martinez stood exactly where she'd been, gun still trained on Gabriel, her expression almost bored. Now then, where were we? You're explaining why you're completely insane, Gabriel said. I'm the sanest person in this room, the only one who accepts what we really are. Humans are predators, Gabriel. We're designed to hunt and kill and take what we want. Everything else is just social conditioning. Then why the elaborate games? Why not just kill people directly? Because breaking the conditioning is the interesting part. Watching someone realize that their morality, their humanity, is just a thin veneer over an animal that wants to survive at any cost. Martinez turned back to Emma. Your stepfather understood this. He took what he wanted from you because he could. And when you killed him, you were simply asserting your position in the food chain. He was a monster. He was honest. And so are you, deep down. You enjoyed killing him, Emma. You told me so yourself in our very first session, Emma remembered. That session. Remembered the shame and confusion she'd felt about the satisfaction she'd experienced watching her abuser die. I was processing trauma. You were discovering your true nature, and now you're going to embrace it fully. Dr. Martinez tossed a second gun across the floor to Emma's feet. Pick it up. No, pick it up, or I start shooting pieces off of Gabriel. We'll begin with his kneecaps and work our way up. Emma looked at Gabriel, saw the acceptance in his eyes. He was prepared to die rather than let her be forced into another killing. But Emma had made her choice the moment Dr. Martinez had threatened him. She picked up the gun. Good girl, Emma pointed at Gabriel. Emma raised the weapon, her hands steady despite the chaos in her heart. Gabriel met her eyes and she saw love there, trust, forgiveness for whatever she was about to do. I'm sorry, Emma whispered. And then she spun and fired 3 shots center mass into Dr. Martinez. The older woman looked down at the spreading crimson stain across her chest with something like pride. There's my girl, she gasped. I knew you'd make the right choice. She collapsed to the floor, blood pooling beneath her in the red emergency lighting. Gabriel rushed to Emma's side as she dropped the gun with shaking hands. It's over, he said, pulling her against his chest. She's gone. She can't hurt anyone else. But Emma was staring at Dr. Martinez's body with a familiar expression. The same satisfaction she'd felt watching her stepfather die. The same dark pleasure in ending someone who had caused pain. Gabriel, she whispered. What? I think she was right about me. Before Gabriel could respond, Dr. Martinez's eyes fluttered open one last time. The gas, she whispered with her dying breath. Lied about the pressure sensors, but the gas is real, already in the air. You have maybe 10 minutes before it kills you both. Her eyes closed for the final time, leaving Emma and Gabriel alone. With the growing certainty that they were about to die together in the building where their twisted love story had begun. Gabriel's fingers flew over his phone as Emma slumped against the wall. The weight of what she'd done settling into her bones like poison. I can't get a signal. Building's communications are still locked down. Gabriel moved to the windows, but they were reinforced glass, impossible to break. There has to be another way out. Emma watched him with detached fascination. Even facing death, he was trying to save them both. She'd spent 3 years in therapy learning to trust again, only to discover it had all been manipulation. But this man, who had lied to her and used her, was risking his own life trying to find an escape. Gabriel, her voice was strangely calm. Stop. There's a maintenance shaft that connects to the ventilation system. If we can reach it, stop. Emma pushed herself away from the wall, standing on unsteady legs. She's right, about what I am. Gabriel spun to face her. Emma, don't listen to anything that psychopath said. I killed my stepfather, and I enjoyed it. I just killed her, and I enjoyed that too. I'm exactly what she said I was. You're a survivor. You did what you had to do to protect yourself and protect me. Did I? Or did I do it because some part of me likes killing people who hurt me? Gabriel crossed the room, taking her face in his hands despite her attempt to pull away. Look at me. Really look at me? Do I look afraid of you? Emma met his gray eyes, expecting to see fear or disgust. Instead, she found something that looked like understanding. You want to know a secret? Gabriel's voice was soft. I enjoyed watching her die too. I'm glad she's dead. I'm glad you killed her before I had the chance to do it myself. That's different.
Is it?
I've spent 3 years planning to murder whoever killed my brother. I've had detailed fantasies about making them suffer. What does that make me? Emma searched his face, looking for the lie, the manipulation. But there was only honesty there, brutal and complete. It makes you human, she whispered. Then so. Are you? A new sound broke through their conversation, a subtle hiss that made them both freeze. The ventilation system had kicked into high gear, pumping more of whatever Dr. Martinez had released into the air. "How long do we have?" Emma asked. Gabriel pulled up Dr. Martinez's device, which had skittered across the floor when she fell. The display showed a timer, 6 minutes and 37 seconds. Not long enough to find another way out. No. Moved to Dr. Martinez's body, kneeling despite the spreading pool of blood. She searched the woman's pockets methodically, looking for anything that might help. "What are you doing?" But she was too careful to not have an escape plan. Emma's fingers found a small key card. This might override the lockdown. Gabriel took the card, examining it. It's not labeled. Could be for anything, or it could save our lives. They had two choices: stay in the office and hope the card worked on something useful, or risk leaving the room and potentially triggering additional traps Dr. Martinez might have set. Emma made the decision for both of them by walking to the door. "Emma, wait." She turned back to face him, memorizing his features in the red emergency lighting. "Gabriel, if we don't make it out of here, I need you to know something." "Going to make it. Listen to me." Emma's voice was fierce. "Everything I told you about not being able to be touched, about being broken, it was true. But these past few weeks with you, I started to remember what it felt like to be whole.
That
Wasn't manipulation or conditioning, that was real." Gabriel moved toward her, his expression raw. "Emma, I love you. I know that's insane considering everything that's happened, but I love you. And if we die in here, at least I gotta feel that once." Gabriel reached her in 3 strides, pulling her into his arms. This time Emma didn't pull away. She melted into his embrace, letting herself feel the warmth and strength of him. The way her body fit against his like it had been designed for this moment. "I love you too," he whispered against her hair. "I started falling for you the moment you jumped away from my touch in that elevator. You were so scared and so brave at the same time. Even knowing what I am, especially knowing what you are. You're not broken, Emma. You're someone who's been through hell and came out fighting." The timer on the device beeped. For minutes, they broke apart reluctantly, and Emma swiped the key card through the door's electronic lock. The light flashed green, and the door clicked open. The hallway beyond was dark, except for scattered emergency lighting. No gas visible, but that meant nothing. The toxin could be odorless and invisible, just as Dr. Martinez had claimed. "The elevator shaft," Gabriel said. "Geff, we can get the doors open. There might be a maintenance ladder." They moved quickly through the corridors, Gabriel leading the way, while Emma watched for any signs of additional traps. The building felt like a tomb around them, all the familiar spaces transformed into a maze of potential death. When they reached the elevator bank, Gabriel used the key card on the maintenance panel. The doors opened with a grinding sound, revealing the dark shaft beyond. There, Gabriel pointed to a service ladder mounted on the far wall. "We can climb down to the ground floor." But as Emma peered into the shaft, she saw something that made her blood freeze. The ladder was damaged, several rungs missing about halfway down. Even if they made it that far, there was a gap of at least 8 feet to the next intact section. "I can't make that jump," Emma said. "We'll figure it out when we get there." The timer on the device showed 2 minutes. They were out of time and options. Emma looked at Gabriel, saw the same realization in his eyes. One of them might make it down the ladder and survive the jump, but not both. "You go," Emma said. "Absolutely not." "Gabriel, listen to me. You have a company, employees who depend on you. I'm nobody. You're everything to me, and you're everything to me, which is why you have to go." Gabriel grabbed her shoulders, his grip desperate. "I'm not leaving you." "Yes, you are. Because if you don't, we both die, and Dr. Martinez wins." She wanted to break us, to prove we were monsters. But monsters don't sacrifice themselves for love. 1 minute. Emma kissed Gabriel with everything she had left, pouring 5 years of loneliness and 3 weeks of impossible hope into the contact. When they broke apart, both were crying. "Go," she whispered, "and remember me as someone who chose love over survival." Gabriel's face was devastated, but he nodded. He knew she was right. One of them had to live to tell their story, to make sure Dr. Martinez's research died with her. He swung onto the ladder, looking back at Emma one last time. I'll come back. For you, I swear I'll find a way. I know you will. But they both knew it was a lie. It wasn't enough time. Gabriel disappeared into the darkness of the shaft. Emma was alone with the ticking device and the growing certainty that she was about to die. 30 seconds. Emma closed her eyes, thinking about her grandmother's flower shop, about the fairy garden she'd created to help someone heal. She'd spent her whole life trying to make broken spaces beautiful again. Maybe dying to save the man she loved was just another kind of design. 15 seconds. She opened her eyes and saw Gabriel's face in the elevator shaft opening, his expression. "Wild, the fire department," he shouted. "Can see their lights. They're here." 10 seconds. Emma smiled, peace settling over her like a blanket. Gabriel would live. Someone would remember their story as a love worth dying for. 5 seconds. The building's lights suddenly blazed to life, the lockdown systems disengaging all at once. Fresh air began pouring through the ventilation system as the emergency protocols kicked in, and Emma realized that Dr. Martinez had lied about one final thing. The gas had been her last manipulation, her final attempt to break them even in death. Gabriel's hands reached down from the elevator shaft, and Emma grabbed them just as the fire crews burst through the stairwell doors. They were alive. They were together. And for the first time in either of their lives, they were truly free. 6 months later, Emma stood in the doorway of what had once been Gabriel's office, watching him pack the last of his personal belongings into boxes. The police investigation had cleared them both. Dr. Martinez's research had painted a picture of a brilliant psychopath who had manipulated dozens of trauma survivors over nearly a decade. David Stone had been just one victim among many. Emma's stepfather had been another, chosen and cultivated by Dr. Martinez long before she'd ever met Emma. The revelation that her abuse had been orchestrated by the woman who'd later treated her for it had nearly broken Emma completely. But Gabriel had held her through the worst of it, just as she'd held him when they'd discovered the full scope of his brother's suffering. "The movers will be here in an hour," Gabriel said without looking up from his desk. "Are you sure about this?" Emma nodded, though she wasn't sure he could see her. "The building holds too much pain, for both of us." Gabriel's new headquarters would be across town, in a space that Emma had designed from the ground up. Clean lines, natural light, rooms that remembered nothing but possibility. It was some of her best work, created not just with technical skill, but with love for the man who would walk those halls every day. "What about us?" Gabriel asked quietly. It was the question that had hung between them for months. They loved each other desperately, completely. But love built on shared trauma was a fragile thing. And they'd both needed time to discover who they were when they weren't running for their lives. Emma moved into the office, her footsteps echoing in the empty space. "I've been thinking about what Dr. Martinez said, about predators and prey, about what we really are." "Emma, let me finish." She sat on the edge of his desk, the same spot, where she'd held the USB drive that had started their final confrontation with Dr. Martinez. She was wrong about almost everything. But she was right about one thing. We are predators. Gabriel's hands stilled on the box he was packing. "What do you mean?" "We hunt down beautiful spaces and create them. We track down moments of happiness and claim them. We stalk love until we corner it and make it ours." Emma smiled, and for the first time in months, it reached her eyes. "We're predators who prey on joy instead of pain." Gabriel straightened, studying her face. "And what does that mean for us?" "It means I'm done running from what I feel. I'm done pretending that surviving trauma makes me unworthy of love. I'm done believing that broken people can't create something whole together." Emma slid off the desk, moving closer to Gabriel. "It means I want to hunt down a future with you, if you'll let me." Gabriel's answer was to pull her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. "I've been waiting 6 months to hear you say that," he whispered against her hair. "I needed to be sure I was choosing you, not just clinging to you because you saved me, and now I know the difference." Emma pulled back to meet his eyes. "I love you not because you rescued me, but because you saw me at my absolute worst and stayed anyway. Because you trusted me with a gun when any rational person would have run. Because you were willing to die for me. You were willing to die For me too, and I'd do it again. That's how I know this is real. Gabriel cupped her face in his hands, thumbs brushing away tears she hadn't realized were falling. So what happens now? Now we leave this place and all its ghosts behind, build something new somewhere else. Together, which you can handle. Living with a woman who kills people who threaten the ones she loves, Gabriel's smile was soft and fierce at the same time. I can handle it. Can you handle living with a man who spent 3 years planning elaborate revenge fantasies? I think we're perfectly matched. They kissed then, deep and desperate and full of promise. When they broke apart, Emma felt something she'd never experienced before. Not just love, but hope. The kind of hope that made plans and dreamed of futures. There's something else, Emma said. I want to start a foundation. For trauma survivors, real help. Not the kind Dr. Martinez provided. What would you call it? David Stone Foundation. Your brother should be remembered for more than how he died. Gabriel's eyes filled with tears. He would have liked that. He would have liked you. I would have liked him too. They finished packing in comfortable silence. To people who had learned that love wasn't about fixing each other's brokenness, it was about choosing to build something beautiful from the pieces that remained. As they prepared to leave the office, for the last time, Emma noticed something she'd missed before. On the wall where Gabriel's awards had hung, someone had scratched words into the paint, probably during the chaos of that final night. What does it say? Gabriel asked, following her gaze. Emma traced the letters with her finger, recognizing Dr. Martinez's handwriting. Monsters recognize monsters. They stood in silence for a moment, considering the words. She was wrong, Gabriel said finally. Was she? We're not monsters, Emma. Monsters don't sacrifice themselves for love. Monsters don't build foundations to help other people heal. Monsters don't spend 6 months in therapy learning to process trauma in healthy ways. Emma smiled, remembering their couples counselor's words from their last session. Dr. Kim said something interesting yesterday. She said that the capacity for violence doesn't make someone evil. It's what you choose to do with that capacity that defines you. And what have we chosen? To protect instead of harm, to build instead of destroy, to love instead of hate. Gabriel nodded, understanding. We're not the monsters in this story. No, we're the survivors who refuse to let the monsters win. They walked out of the office together, leaving the scratched words and all their associated pain behind. In the elevator, Emma felt a moment of panic as she remembered their first meeting in this same space, but Gabriel's hand found hers, steady and warm, and the fear passed. Are you ready for this? He asked as the elevator descended. Ready for what? Being happy, building a life together. All of it. Emma considered the question seriously. For so long, happiness had seemed like something that happened to other people. But standing here with Gabriel, about to step out into a world full of possibility, she realized that happiness wasn't something that happened to you. It was something you chose to create. I'm ready, she said. The elevator doors opened onto the lobby where their new life was waiting. Sunlight streamed through the windows, warm and golden and full of promise. They stepped out into it together, two people who had survived the worst humanity could offer and emerged with their capacity for love intact. Behind them, the building held its memories of pain and manipulation and death. But ahead of them lay everything they had never dared to dream. Emma squeezed Gabriel's hand as they walked toward the exit, toward the moving trucks and the new beginning they would build together. I love you, she said. I love you too. And for the first time in either of their lives, those words carried no fear, no reservation, no shadow of the past. Just the pure, bright certainty of a future they would create with their own hands. Asterisk, asterisk, #mash, that like button if this story gave you all the feels. Subscribe for more intense romance stories that will keep you up all night. Share with someone who loves dark romance with happy endings. The end.